It's the boy, Bubba, let's coming through. Hella clutch, flawless, can't be touched. It's your boy, Bubba, let's. Yeah, I need that hot take. I need the truth and everything that is not fake. So tell me.
Welcome back, Bubba Bunch, to another edition of the Bubba Lutz Sports Podcast. This is episode 186. This is my favorite series to do on this channel. It is winners and losers of the NFL Week 9 edition. Yes, people, 9 straight weeks of my annoying ass talking about football. You still got what? A whole other halfway to go? And it's only going to get more annoying as we reach closer and closer to the playoffs. Oh, you're going to hate me by the end of this year. By the end of this year, though, I hope that we got 100 subs on YouTube. And we're at 87 right now. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. And if you have, please share it with your friends and family. I do want to get to 100 subs by the end of 2020. And I'm probably going to do some more streams, some more events to get us to that point. So keep that in mind. Turn on notifications on YouTube. And make sure to follow us on all platforms, audio or video. So with that being said, let's get right into the winners and losers. You know the deal. Winners, they get...
Oh, a little bit of the bubbly.
Losers get... And the honorable mention.
And I want my damn respect, too.
Gotta have that damn respect. Winners of Week 9. Let's get it started with a little bit of a roll tide. Tua Tagovailoa is undefeated as the Miami Dolphins quarterback, replacing Ryan Fitzpatrick. And the move doesn't make sense to me, but we keep on rolling because the Dolphins are my sleeper team in the AFC. They met the sleeper team of mine from the NFC, the Arizona Cardinals, this weekend, and in a phenomenal game that ended with the Dolphins fins up 34-31 in a tight victory for Tua and the boys down in Miami. Tua, look, it was a rough first go. You know, Aaron Donald's there. You face a very questionable Rams team. Are they legit? Are they not? And you come out, you get banged up immediately. Is the hip going to hold? You didn't make the best throws, but you didn't make the worst throws. How do you go into this week? More preparation and now getting your feet wet. How will you perform? Well, 20 of 28, pretty accurate. 248 yards and 2 touchdowns. Look, this had to be Tua's game because of the fact that Myles Gaskins is out in this game. So it was really up to Jordan Howard, Tua, and a guy named, I don't know, their leading rusher of the game, Salvon Ahmed. Like, who? And not even that. A total of 91 rushing yards for this Dolphins team. Tua had 35 of them. So he had a third of their entire running game. But it had to be done in the air. It had to be a collective effort. Back-to-back weeks where you see a good set of three-dimensional football being played in Miami. Great special teams, great defense, and overall good offense that gets them the win against a very high-octane offense in Arizona. Look, I'm not going to say that with the way that Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow are playing around the league that Tua is the next guy to just ball out. But having that type of stats where he's going for 250, 300, he throws a couple of touchdowns, as long as he's not making those dumb rookie mistakes and he's staying healthy. Like, he's building a really good relationship with Preston Williams and Devontae Parker, who had just over 60 yards both, and he targeted them a lot. And while you wait for Gaskins to come back on this team, I think this team is in really good hands with Brian Flores coaching-wise. I mean, I know that Matt LaFleur and Mike Tomlin are probably ahead in the Coach of the Year talk, but we should give a lot of credit to Brian Flores and what he's done in the last year and a half in Miami. I'm loving every single one of it. This is the exact reason why I'm saying that the Dolphins are a sleeper team, second in the AFC East, just behind the Buffalo Bills, and they're not far off. They have a really good schedule these next few weeks, and if Tua's playing like this, he's feeling comfortable, and you see all those highlights and those videos on the sidelines where a lot of his offensive line and players on the offense are just talking him through the games, talking him through just the nerves and the emotions, and getting past that, making sure he's a team player. He's not overwhelmed by the moment. If you get him past those times, this is a really good football team that can make a lot of waves in the AFC that is completely stacked. I only see a few duds in that entire conference, and Miami's not one of them. So Tua and the Dolphins, you deserve.
Oh, a little bit of the bubbly.
By the way, if you're watching this and you see me wearing this shirt and you're seeing it slowly show a little bit of the sugar, a little bit of, a little of the chesties, you just mind your business, okay? You just mind your business. If you're not watching, you're missing out. Second winner of the week, it's also a quarterback that really stood out to me, and a team that needed a significant victory over a good opponent. It's Josh Allen and the boys from Buffalo. Look, these last few weeks have been tough for Buffalo. It's getting colder, and you need that warmth inside. You get back-to-back losses against the Titans and the Chiefs, against AFC contenders. You don't want to see it. Then you barely beat the Jets in a one-possession game. That's not fun. You barely beat the New England Patriots in a one-possession game. And after how those two played on Monday night this week, dear God, you wish you didn't have to see it. So now you go against Seattle, who is top 2, top 3 contender in the NFC and in all of football, with the current MVP, in my eyes, still Russell Wilson. But the way that it's been going these last few weeks for Seattle, we'll get to them in a moment, you still have a brilliant Russell Wilson that is playing an MVP level form with DK Metcalf. Yeah, I said it, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett as their wide receivers. Their running game isn't the same with Chris Carson being out and also Carlos Hyde being out. So it was up to DJ Dallas. God help them if they have to rely on DJ Dallas for these next couple of weeks. But it's still Russell Wilson, right? And that defense is bad. Again, I'll get to it. But it was very important for Buffalo to have that dominant victory. And even though they gave up the 33 points in this game, Josh Allen, that cat could ball, man. 31 of 38, 415 yards with 3 touchdowns. And I know I talked about the Miami Dolphins not having a running game really in their game against Arizona. Well, then you look at Buffalo and you're going to say, hold my beer, because rushing attack had a total of 20 yards. They had 35, but that's because Josh Allen ran for 15. And so 20 complete yards with Zach Moss and with Devin Singletary. That's not fun in Buffalo. So it was all Josh Allen in this game. If you look at the wide receivers, I mean, it was a good fantasy day, unless you're Cole Beasley, who's on my team, obviously, who didn't get most of the targets, didn't get most of the receptions. But Stephon Diggs balled out, and it was a really good day if you're Josh Allen's arm for Sunday against the Seattle Seahawks. And like I said, a much-needed performance for Josh Allen and the Bills after those 2 tough losses and the really unimpressive wins against the AFC East opponents that aren't going to do much this year. And lastly, on Josh Allen, this was a big win for him. I mean, he doesn't deserve enough bubbly for what he had to deal with this weekend. Played after finding out that his grandmother died earlier in the week, and the amount of support that the Buffalo Bills fans gave to him. I mean, it reminds me a lot of Jim Kelly in the 90s of how supportive they are of him through his tough times. And it was really nice to see Josh Allen, who I've been critical of, but that doesn't mean that I don't have feelings. And for him to have a game like that for his grandmother, Josh Allen, Buffalo Bills, you deserve it.
Oh, a little bit of the bubbly.
Final winner of Week 9 in the NFL. And he's been a winner for many weeks, but it's time for me to put him on the list. Minnesota Viking, former Florida State Seminole, Dalvin Cook, cooking the Detroit Lions on Sunday afternoon. 252 total yards. 206 of those came from the running game. Absolutely sensational out of Dalvin Cook. Look, let's just look at the entire stat sheet. Let's look at the game logs. Other than the first 2 games of the season, Minnesota has been doing it a lot lately to where they start off really slow and they really get it going in the later part of the season, trying to figure themselves out. But we know for a fact that their identity falls in the lap of Dalvin Cook. So other than the first 2 games where he had like 50, 60 yards on the ground, and other than that Seattle Seahawks game where he really injured that groin, well, it looks good to me. Other than those 3 games where he didn't get over 100 yards, he got around 60. His logs are 181 rushing yards, 130 rushing yards, 163 rushing yards, and 206 rushing yards. Not even considering on the passing game with those catches. That's just on the ground. He has 4 games with multiple touchdowns. I'm making the campaign right now that he should not only be in the conversation for Offensive Player of the Year, which he might just win straight up, but MVP talk for Dalvin Cook should be a thing. Look, I'm tired of seeing all quarterbacks in the MVP list. I know I talked about it. I said that Patrick Mahomes will probably win the award, and the way that he's playing, he's probably going to take over Russell Wilson. But I said if the backup, if it's truly based on who's the MVP of their team, then it should be Russell Wilson. But I'm looking at this Minnesota Vikings team, and I'm saying when they don't have Dalvin Cook on that field, they don't know what the hell to do, even if Justin Jefferson's balling out. Kirk Cousins isn't reliable. It all runs through Dalvin Cook. Literally and metaphorically, it is Dalvin Cook's offense. And if you want to talk about value, they are a borderline playoff team with Dalvin Cook. Without him, they might as well go winless for the rest of the year. They need Dalvin Cook, and I get it, he's not a quarterback. But with these stats, you cannot ignore that he's doing it against some of the best competition in football, including Green Bay, of all people. He put up 181 yards against the Tennessee Titans, who could be a Super Bowl contender. This is no fluke. This is no offensive player. Whoop-diddy-doo. This is an MVP type of player. And I want to see a running back win this award sooner rather than later. Dalvin Cook is the closest thing to that. Dalvin Cook, you deserve.
Oh, a little bit of the bubbly.
He's cooking up a lot of these defenses, but you need that. You need that nice little drink on the side. You really do. Honorable mention of the week. It has to go to Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints for their dominant victory over the Tampa Bay Bucks to really solidify them as the best team in that division in the NFC South. 38-3 victory. Defense only allowing 8 rushing yards. 8 rushing yards. You're talking about an attack that has Shady McCoy, that has Leonard Fournette, that has Rojo Ronald Jones, and they only had 8 rushing yards in total. Not to mention, or not forget to mention, that Tom Brady, the 6-time Super Bowl winning quarterback, has 3 interceptions and no touchdown in this game. Made him look like a scrub. Made him look like Blaine Gabbert. Made him look like Jameis Winston out there, but in a different Bucs uniform. Drew Brees, on the other hand, I mean, he had almost a perfect passer rating with 135.2. He's dealing them. He had 4 touchdowns. Michael Thomas only had 60 yards, so he's just getting back into form. It was his first game back since the suspension and the injuries over the last few weeks. And you also got to consider how good Alvin Kamara is, how good that offensive line has been. But they lead the league in the amount of catches, 20-plus yards or more. All this Saints team's looking really good. But the one question that everybody had was, how can that defense hold up? I love their linebacker core. They get rid of Kiko Alonso. They're going to add on Quan Alexander very soon. They have a really good defensive front. How can that secondary really hold up against really good competition that just added Antonio Brown? Well, Tom Brady looked lost out there, and Antonio Brown was nowhere to be seen. So Marshawn Lattimore, I don't know what it is about Mike Evans that makes you want to compete, but when he has that edge, when he has that competitive nature, and he wants to beat the living crap out of his matchup, Marshawn Lattimore is absolutely an elite level cornerback. Lattimore should be given more credit for his performance in this game because he locked down Mike Evans, and that whole defense locked down the Bucs to only give up 3 points, and they put up big numbers against a really good defense statistically. It's a bad week for Bruce Arians. They look lost, and I'm really starting to feel the Saints did this themselves. I know they've been struggling for the last few weeks in Tampa, but this game, if you can't win in your division, you're working with a wild card. And right now, I'm selling if I'm the Tampa Bay Bucs. I'm selling if I'm looking at this team and saying, are they a Super Bowl contender with their performance against the Saints? Oh, it's bad. It's bad. But it's really good for the New Orleans Saints. So you're not a winner. I want to see more. But Drew Brees, New Orleans.
And I want my damn respect too.
You'll get your respect. You get it. You get it from me. Okay? Losers. This is bad. Number one loser of the week in the NFL, Week 9, is the quarterback position in Washington. Look, you don't have a team name. You don't have a quarterback. We've gone through everything. If you're Ron Rivera, who has spent so many years working with Cam Newton, has spent so many years with trying to figure out Cam Newton and how to fit him in an offense, how to fit him in the NFL, and it made him work in 2015. And ever since then, it's kind of a teeter-totter. But he made Kyle Allen look really good last year in his final year in Carolina. Then he moves on to Washington, and it's in turmoil, but he gets it going. There's a lot of things going on outside of football for him, but he's doing his best. I mean, he beat the crap out of the Cowboys, so credit to him. But when we look at this quarterback position, it is the most enticing yet absolute shit fest to be a part of if you're a quarterback around the league as a free agent or a soon-to-be draftee. Dwayne Haskins starts the season off, and he has a lot of accuracy issues. He has a lot of decision-making problems. He has the talent. He has just the pure nature of a quarterback to ball out. And Ron Rivera gave him so many chances, it just didn't work out. And I don't know where Dwayne Haskins goes from here. So then you go to Kyle Allen, and you say, I mean, he's my backup. He worked in Carolina. He should work here. He got plenty of weapons to work with. Kyle Allen has been all right when he is healthy, but goes down on Sunday with the leg injury. And we've seen Alex Smith earlier in the season. It's a great story. He comes in this game against the New York Giants. And look, it's a nice story. It's great to see Alex Smith still be able to play, and I'm happy for him. But he's just not the same quarterback. It could be mental. It could be the fact that he just doesn't want to go through the same things he did in the past few years, and he wants to stay healthy for his family, and he wants to play football. I think Alex Smith has had a great career in the NFL, but I think it's time to give it up. And in this performance with 3 interceptions, you're kind of left with Alex Smith ain't it. Kyle Allen, we'll see what the injury holds, but he's not the long-term solution in Washington. Neither is Dwayne Haskins. And if you're a quarterback looking in, maybe you don't want to be there, but you also got to look at how good Terry McLaurin is still looking. Even with this bad quarterback play, they have some good weapons in Antonio Gibson. They have a really good running game. And their weapons on the outside are only going to get better from here. They have the best defensive line in football, in my opinion, that has future written all over them. But right now, the quarterback position in Washington is unquestionably the worst in football. I mean, the absolute worst in football. Even in Dallas, they have Garrett Gilbert. They have somebody. In Washington, they've gone through every single option, and they said, nope, nope, nope. There is no other quarterback on their depth chart right now as we record this. So if Kyle Allen can't go, you're kind of stuck with Dwayne Haskins. And you don't want to go with Dwayne Haskins because you've seen it plenty this year. And you don't want to go back to Alex Smith. You really don't. So it's completely up in the air for Washington and that football team. But for right now, Stephen A. mean, that's I mean, not even to mention the freaking offensive line. You look at the depth chart, every single one of those guys that is not starting is on 3 different positions because they are so weak. I mean, weak. They are thin. I mean, thinner than don't ask my ex-wife about that because she will give an answer that's it's ex-wife for a reason. Number 2 loser of the week is the Seahawks defense. It's bad. No more Legion of Boom. It's over. I mean, it's far from gone. The paces that they are setting and the records they could shatter, not just break, shatter, if they continue at the pace that they're doing, not only just giving up 44 points against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, giving up over 400 yards passing, and, I mean, the running defense, considering that it was only like 35 yards, is pretty good, but considering the expectations that was of this defense coming into this year, especially with the Jamal Adams blockbuster trade, you're thinking they can get by, and it's not going to be the same thing as last year to where their strength of schedule did not look good. They beat weak teams, they lose to good teams, and by the time that they got to the playoffs and had to play good teams, they just weren't strong enough. And I feel that we are going in the exact same path that they did last year. And that was my argument last year. I put them in my losers last year because I was like, look, this team is a fluke. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in Russell Wilson, and they have weapons across the board. But that defense is going to cost them games. And really, when you look at their schedule, they're only beating the worst of the worst. They're not beating winnable games in the later part of the season when they have to go to the playoffs against the Packers, against the Saints. We haven't seen them in that magnitude. Their biggest win of the year has probably been against the Patriots on Sunday night. And, I mean, considering what the Patriots are now, do we really think that's a strong victory for the Seattle Seahawks? And then you have the division to where it's like, well, they lost to Arizona. Well, Arizona's looking really good. And then you look at the Rams and you're like, well, it's the Rams. And then their win against the 49ers, I mean, they basically are a shell of what they were last year in the Super Bowl. So right now, this Seahawks team is looking like a fluke. And Russell Wilson's making mistakes. He's not looking the same as he did in the first 3 or 4 weeks. But this defense is going to cost them their season. Look, they're on pace to be the worst defense on yards allowed in the NFL. I looked at an article, and it said that they already gave up more points and more yards in 9 games this season than they did all of the 2013 regular season. In 16 games, they gave up less yards and points as they have now. And the other stat was the pace that they are setting for the most yards allowed in total, which is the worst record for that is the Saints in 2012 with just over 7,000. And they are on pace to go well over 7,500 yards. Dear God. Oh, that's bad. And when you go against a good team like the Buffalo Bills, when you look at their schedule and you say, well, they got to beat some good teams later on, even with Jamal Adams back on this field, they're trying. I know they're trying, and I appreciate what Pete Carroll's doing, knowing that there are some issues on that defensive side, and he's making moves. Carlos Dunlap, he did the Jamal Adams trade. He knows it's not the Legion of Boom anymore, but he's very optimistic, and he's saying that they do have to improve on the defensive side to really make a difference and make an impact on this season. But there's a lot of work to do, and at some point you just gotta do something different, because what you're doing right now, especially in the secondary, is just not working, and it's very unlike the Seattle Seahawks. So you can't rely on Russell Wilson, how many times have we said that in Seattle, to win you football games, especially with how bad this defense is. 1-2 in the last 3 games. They started off 5-0. They're really on a cold streak right now. But for right now, the Seattle defense is the main reason why. So, Stephen A. Jamal Adams saying, what did I get myself into? Should have came to Dallas. How about that? Number 3 and final loser of the week. It was just long overdue. Anthony Lynn, head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, loses another game by 1 possession or less. They lose again. Who do they even lose to? Does it really matter? I gotta look this up. Who do they lose to? I know I looked at it. I blanked. I'm sorry. I blanked on who they faced this week. It was against the Raiders. Las Vegas Raiders are doing pretty well. But with how Justin Herbert is playing, you can't tell me that this team doesn't deserve to be more than 2-6. But I did some research, and I'm looking at their schedule, and I'm looking at all these factors, and I'm saying, well, how does it make sense that Anthony Lynn, who went 12-4 in 2018 and won a lot of games that year, goes into 2019, and other than 2 of their 11 losses, they lost by 1 possession or less. They lost by 7 points or less. 11 losses, 9 of those were 1 possession. And those other 2 were pretty bad. And then you look at this season. Their only wins coming against the Bengals in week 1. That wasn't really their victory. The Bengals should have won that. Joe Burrow put them in a position to win, and Randy Bullock just missed a field goal. So they really didn't deserve that win. Against the Jaguars, who are a bad football team and are just waiting for Trevor Lawrence to get there. So what does that mean? What does that win really do? And then the rest of their losses has been every single time. And granted, there was that one Chiefs game where they took him to overtime in Justin Herbert's first start. And that's pretty impressive, but again, it's because of Justin Herbert. Every other game, well, actually, no, including the Chiefs game, every single game that they've played this year and lost has been 1 possession. There is a trend, there is a pattern, and that is bad execution, that is bad finishing, that's bad coaching at the end of the day. There is the pattern, and it's going on 2 years now. And if you finish this season with the exact same stat sheet and the exact same pattern, rhythm that you had last year where you lose by 1 possession or less, his job as head coach for the Los Angeles Chargers is gone. I would be salivating if I was any other head coach that is looking to leave, a coordinator that is wanting to be a head coach, a college head coach, or a guy that hasn't been in the realm for a couple years. I'm looking at that Los Angeles Chargers team, and I'm looking at that job at the end of the season with Anthony Lynn probably moving out. I'm saying that is the best job in the NFL right now, because you have Justin Herbert, who is your future quarterback for the next 10 years. You have weapons across the board on offense and defense. You're going to get Derwin James back next season. And then you still have Melvin Ingram. You still have Joey Bosa. You still got Austin Eckler. You're going to have Justin Herbert, a great offensive line. You have Keenan Allen. You have great weapons across the board. And you say they just need to finish. If they finish these games, they are undefeated this year. They are close to undefeated last season. And for me, the move they needed to make this offseason was to get rid of Phillip Rivers. Right now, that is the best decision that they've made. So they've made strides to be better. They got rid of that just, I hate to use this word, and it's a lack of a better term, but cancer that was Phillip Rivers at that quarterback position, because he just doesn't give him the best chance to win at that position. And you see it in Indianapolis that he's just not good enough anymore, and he hasn't been good enough for a very long time. Guess how that worked out? You thought Tyrod Taylor was going to be the option just for a little bit, but Justin Herbert has taken over this team. It's taken over this culture at a high level, and I'm so proud of Justin Herbert for making that leap so soon in the NFL. The dude looks like he's 14. He has acne. And you're telling me that this guy is going to lead this team for the next 10 years? Undoubtedly one of the most shocking things in the NFL this season. And they're only going to get better as the years go along. But what do they need right now? They need a head coach for the future. And Anthony Lynn just isn't it. He isn't it. He is the Phillip Rivers of the head coaches. And you need to get rid of him. And I'm looking at every other head coach that maybe wants to make the move to head coach or has done it before. I don't know. Bill Cowher. If Bill wants to come back and coach in the NFL, I'm saying this is the best job he's had in years. A potential job. This is it. The Chargers are a good football team. They are the best 2-6 football team I've ever seen in my lifetime, but they have a really bad coach who is bringing them down. Excuse me. So, Chargers. I'm sorry, Justin. I'm sorry. That one hurts. That one hurts. This is going to do it for episode 186 of the Bubble Let Sports podcast. I hope you enjoyed winners and losers of Week 9 in the NFL. Look, we're going to come back tomorrow, talk about halfway mark of the season or just above that, and talk about our predictions from earlier in the season and where do we go from here, buy or sell some teams, and what are our expectations for the second part of the season, who's going to make that playoff push. So we'll come back later in the week with that. There's no preview for the Cowboys game this week. They're on a bye, but we're going to preview the NFL games for Week 10 in the NFL. So keep that in mind, keep track of that, and we will see you next time on the Bubble Let Sports podcast.
Yeah, hold on. Tell me who's your top 5 quarterbacks right now, dead or alive, huh? And how much do you care about a ring if the best player got carried by the team? Now would you lose if it been a better draft pick? And do you cuss when your team get their ass kicked?